So today, Piers Morgan had on Dr. Foad Izadi for his uncensored show, and boy, was the professor uncensored. He is a professor of the university at the University of Tehran and a PhD. And Piers brought him on to talk about the 12-day war between Israel and Iran. And I know that everybody is losing their mind over a very important part of the interview towards the end where Dr. Izadi says, under Piers's prodding, that he is proud of Hamas, and everyone's losing their mind about that. But I actually think there are a lot of other really interesting moments in this interview that I want to highlight for you that really show a dehumanization of brown people that is just so British.
Oh, blimey.
Let's get right into it. I'm going to play you the first clip.
Because certainly from the last Atomic Agency report, independent body obviously, they said that there had been a rapid increase in the enrichment of uranium by the Iranian regime from about 3.5% to 60%, which, as you know, is about 30% shy of weaponizing into a nuclear bomb.
Okay, here he's going to be talking about how Iran is not cooperating with the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency, and this is the agency that is supposed to be monitoring Iran's nuclear program. This is a deal that was signed under Barack Obama's presidency, but not just between the United States and Iran. It was the United States with basically the entire Western world and Iran, where Iran agreed to open up its facilities to inspectors who could come there, stay there from any of these countries, no invite needed, just roll on in and see what's going on at their nuclear facilities and if it looks like anything that might be weapons grade.
Have any respect for international law? You're killing 25 children on a daily basis in the last 20 months in a genocide. Yes, if you're Israel, you would find any excuse to attack Iran. But you're not Israel. You're a British journalist, a very famous one. And violating international law in this manner is not going to be good for anyone. When you attack another country, two nuclear states attack the non-nuclear state because of a report that the director of the organization that provided the report says that Iran doesn't have a nuclear weapon program. And the budget of IAEA is $35 million. $22 million out of that is used to inspect Iran.
So that's an important part right there. He says that the budget of the IAEA is $35 million and 22 of the $35 million is spent specifically monitoring Iran. That means that basically their entire job, like 80% of the people that work there, their whole job is to monitor what Iran is doing. And again, it's from a bunch of different countries, not just the United States, able to go there and check the information for themselves.
And secondly, you've got the Iranians who are in charge of this, obfuscating, hiding, not being completely transparent about it. And it was that, I think, double-pronged element to this report, which was what triggered the alarm bells.
Listen to Piers here talking about how the Iranians are obfuscating and they're being cagey about whether or not they're enriching to what level. The man is failing to mention that Israel has nuclear weapons, that Israel doesn't admit it to the world, but it's like an open secret, that they are not allowing anyone to come in and inspect what they're doing the way that every other nation that has nukes does. There is an agreement internationally with countries that have nuclear weapons to come to be open about what's going on. And they are not a signatory to that, but he doesn't mention that. So it's okay for Israel to be completely cagey about what they're doing, even though they are the ones who are currently occupying land in Syria. They're the ones who are currently carrying out a genocide. They're the ones who are currently building settlements in the West Bank. They're the ones that are currently going to the United Nations showing greater maps of Israel where Palestinian land is completely wiped out. It's okay for them to have a secret.
That's suspicious. That's weird.
But Iran is the dangerous one because I don't like their dictator. He's out here supporting Hezbollah and Hamas and all this other stuff. And then, of course, no mention of how Iran got a dictator, because British Petroleum, along with Israel and America, is how. They could have had a very different future in Iran. And people on the right love to post us pictures of Iran then and Iran now and talking about how I'm going to liberate them to go back. Motherfucker, it was your liberation that basically put them in this spot. And it's just amazing to me that Piers has the gall to sit there and question this man when he knows all of this. He knows it better than I do.
They don't do genocide. They want to free their land. The same thing that British people
But
would
you've
do
accused the
in
Israelis of genocide, but actually Hamas openly talks in a genocidal way of wanting to get rid of Israel. That is the purest personification of genocide.
And that to me is the most outrageous thing that Piers has said in the last 2 years about this conflict. I want you guys to just hear that one more time. I'm going to play it.
Openly talks in a genocidal way of wanting to get rid of Israel. That is the purest personification of genocide.
Openly talking about wanting to get rid of Israel is the purest personification of genocide. It is June 26, 2025. Israel has been carrying out an actual genocide in front of our eyes, streamed to our phones, the world's first live stream genocide. According to Piers Morgan, it is worse to talk about genociding Israel than it is for Israel to genocide Gaza. And that is what I'm talking about. Brown people just talking about their liberation, about their rights, is so abhorrent, is so unacceptable. It is so dangerous to somebody with a mentality like Piers, which is quite frankly the British mentality, that it is worse than having the actual genocide happen right now. And I don't think enough people are getting outraged about that point, because it really shines a light and explains exactly why Piers has been covering this the way he has. There's essentially a number that has to get hit for a man like Piers, maybe 1 million confirmed dead, for him to actually show some outrage that is even close to the outrage that he showed for the fake beheaded babies in October 7th. And there were atrocities committed on October 7th. I don't deny that. I also don't presume to condemn the actions of people who are living in the conditions of the Palestinians, okay? I'm not in their shoes, and I'm not going to pass moral judgment on people who are living that way, because I know that I could go to a very evil and dark place if somebody were to hurt my family. So I'm not going to pass judgment on people who are doing whatever the Palestinians are doing because of the conditions that they're being forced to live in. I don't know what that's like. But Piers is saying this. That is one of the most racist things I've ever heard when it comes to this conflict. It goes in line with those things of like, the Israeli sayings like, I can forgive them for killing my children, but I can never forgive them for forcing me to kill their children. Just that kind of nonsense. That kind of nonsense that they spew. The purest form of genocide personified? Really? Let's keep going.
It is not possible. It's not going to happen. Even if you do genocide, the Palestinian nation will live, and Netanyahu will go to jail because he's under an indictment by international courts.
But you don't dispute that Iran has supported those three groups?
With pride. It's an honor for Iranians. When there's a
Were you
genocide
proud about October the 7th?
We are proud of supporting Hamas because they're a liberation
No, I
organization.
understand that, but were you proud of what they did on October the 7th?
Yes, I think...
You were proud of what they did?
Here he's trying to trap this professor in the old "do you condemn Hamas" trap that he had laid out for countless of his guests in the past by asking, you're not denying the fact that Iran is helping Hezbollah and Hamas. I mean, somebody has to help them, okay? Because they are the only ones standing up for justice and standing up for the people in Gaza. And you know who else is funding Hamas? Benjamin Netanyahu. Why does that not get enough play? Hamas has a lot of the money that they do because Bibi, was funneling it to them. He understood that if there was a united front with the Palestinians in the West Bank and in Gaza, that they could maybe come together and the world would say to Israel, hey man, you got to do the two-state solution. But by making sure Hamas was there and that there was a constant boogeyman to point at and say, look, we can't live with these people. Hamas is there. He made sure that they were operating, that they were funded and all of that stuff. And nobody talks about it the way they talk about, do you condemn Hamas? Well, ask Bibi if he condemns his own actions in giving those people money. And ask yourself what you would do if you were living in Gaza. There is no future for you to hope for. People hold on to life and they think it's precious because you have dreams for what you're going to do. That doesn't exist in Gaza. Okay? You are going to be born, you will live in and die inside of a concentration camp. When people have no options, that's exactly what's going to happen. You're going to have things like October 7th. And of course, they're going to say that I will commit more and more October 7th. But look at what they had to do just to even do that. They came in with friggin' paragliders and stuff. And no one is going to deny that they did murder a lot of people, unarmed people that, I don't think that's right. But again, when you have nothing to live for, you are going to die trying to take out your enemies. There are movies that venerate exactly this plot. So Piers Morgan sitting there dumbfounded. Oh, I can't believe. I was actually pleasantly surprised with the professor's response, Dr. Izadi's response. He said, yes, we are supporting them with pride because they are a resistance movement. And Piers is there saying, terrorism isn't resistance. Well, you'll never call what Israel does terrorism, though. You know what I mean? For example, the pager attack, okay, that killed a lot of innocent civilians, people who have nothing to do with Israel's war, people who were just standing nearby. And they got maimed and destroyed. And Piers will never talk about them like they're mothers and sons and daughters and husbands and wives. He'll just say they're collateral damage. What a successful thing. You can practically see him raising the desk 6 inches talking about that thing. Okay? But when it comes to the hair on the head of a single Israeli, it is a 5-alarm fire. And I think that, you know what? It's okay to be completely over that. And it is okay to be a little bit refreshed by somebody who's saying, you know what? We are going to resist this shit. And that's not terrorism. Because if you don't know, let me inform you that before October 7th, life in Gaza was no cakewalk. So if October 7th's attack warrants this response, that is a 2-year-long genocide. What response do the Palestinians have a right to for what's been happening to them? Israel destroys them so often, they have terms like mowing the lawn, where they just say that every once in a while, when there's too many Palestinians growing over there, we just have to go over there and mow the lawn. So what is the response to that? What are they allowed to do? How are they allowed to protect their dignity and their people? How are they allowed to defend themselves? Piers and people like him want to constantly talk about the old charter of Hamas, but they won't look at the founding documents of Zionism that talk about expelling all of the Palestinian people from their land. He won't talk about the stories of people like Gigi Hadid's father, who welcomed in a Zionist family who eventually locked him out of his own home. He won't talk about what the settlers everything is in a vacuum when it comes to Israel. Every incident that affects them has to be talked about in a way that offers no context about what they could have done. And it's getting harder and harder to swallow that pill. And I think this was an embarrassing interview for Piers. I have another clip for you guys. Okay, so in this clip, we're listening to US-based Iranian British activist and attorney Alicia Laban. And wow, listening to her talk is painful. She's going to talk about how Hamas is, bringing on the destruction of their own homeland because, they're embedded in a civilian population.
Well, let me ask you this question. If Hamas was entirely separated from the civilian population, let's say it was totally down north and everyone else, up north and everyone else was down south, do you think that we'd see these civilian casualties?
But no enemy in modern warfare has ever been entirely separated from civilian population.
Well, I would like to remind everybody about the size of Gaza, okay? Gaza is 41 kilometers long and 12 kilometers wide. There are marathons that stretch a farther distance than the perimeter of Gaza. Just take that in. It is the size of Las Vegas, half the size of Toronto. There are 2 million people there who are being told constantly, move to the south, move to the north, move to the south. Does the limbless, the old, the sick, the children, doesn't matter. Get your ass, move to the north, move to the south. The fuel is gone. I don't care. Walk there if you have to, run there if you have to. It doesn't matter, because if you're left there, anything that moves, we kill. And those are not my words. Those are the words of Israeli soldiers who are confessing what they have done in Gaza. And that is coming straight out of Breaking the Silence. Okay, anything that moves, we kill them. So in that area, she's saying that Hamas is embedding themselves in. It's not like there's a lot of room to operate. You know what I mean? It's not like they can go to another section of Gaza and just operate out of there. It would basically be a city block if they did that and then easily just get. They are. Okay. Forget all of that. What about where Israel is keeping all of its stuff? We saw Iran throw a barrage of missiles at Israel, targeting their military bases, which were where? In Tel Aviv, underneath hospitals. This is information that's available at the time of this interview. So she's so used to these propaganda talking points that she doesn't even realize that she is basically contradicting herself and basically making the claim that it is okay to hit Tel Aviv because they are embedded inside of civilian populations. The cognitive dissonance of these people is crazy, to say this with a straight face and not realize how absolutely moronic you sound. Okay, and for the last clip, I want you guys to watch Alicia Liban try to perform some mental calisthenics where she tries to explain to Dave Smith and Piers Morgan how the intent of Israel is more important than what they're actually doing. So even though they've probably killed 500,000 people and completely razed Gaza to the ground, it's okay because their intents are pure. But, you know, if Palestinians so much as throw a fucking rock at an Israeli, no, they are evil, they are bad, and they need to be shut down mercilessly. Let's play the clip.
There is one side that kills ideology to protect its people, and there is one side that kills people to protect its ideology. That is the difference. I'm going to give you an example so you understand the nuance of what I'm trying to say. Let's say that there's a room of 100 people, okay? And in that 100 people, you're told that 10 of these people want to kill your people. Now, if you were to shoot and kill everyone in that room, that is objectively immoral and wrong. Objectively, right? But you are doing it out of protection. It's still disgusting and abhorrent and wrong. Now, let's say at the same time, you know that 10 people in that room of innocent civilians are against your ideology, and you murder the entire room to protect your ideology. Both actions are equally immoral and evil as each other, but the motivation is completely different, and you cannot make equivalencies of those motivations.
All right.
By that same logic, could another group of people not conclude that actually I think the intentions of Hezbollah are more pure? Like, whose opinion matters here? Because maybe in Israel, that's what you guys think. You guys have pure intentions. I mean, more like pure-blooded intentions. You know what I'm saying? You guys are just acting real German. Maybe because a lot of you are from there. I see the flights to Germany are just popping right off. But what about other people? Maybe we think that Hezbollah's intent is pure. You know what I mean? Like, this is such effing BS. Palestinians are stuck between a wall, a desert, and an ocean. They are not allowed to even go fishing 2 miles off their own coast, okay, to feed their families. What are you talking about intentions? We are seeing this idiot Bibi waving around flags at the waving around maps of the United Nations, talking about how he's going to take over places. You guys are literally occupying Syria right now, bombing Lebanon anytime you want, illegally striking Iran, and you want to talk about your intentions? I've heard all of your military personnel talking about how they are going to kill anyone that they see. No food, no water, no electricity. It is amazing that these Israeli propagandists want us to ignore what we can hear with our own freaking ears and just trust what they're saying. I heard Yoav Gallant. I heard Benjamin Netanyahu. I've heard all these freaks and exactly what they want to do. And more than that, I've seen them do it, okay? They're not just talking about it, they're doing it. So what do you mean intent? The intent is to take the land. There were literally tours. Settlers wanted to take tours to see how destroyed Gaza was because it brought their hearts joy. There were TV anchors who were talking about, I can't go to sleep unless I hear the bombs going off, and go, what are you talking about with intent? We saw basically a parade being held for a man who raped a prisoner to death, and people were celebrating him. What are you talking about with intent? This was typical Israeli propaganda, just completely brainwashed, one-sided logic. Dave Smith did a great job keeping his cool and kind of just humbling this girl, but I don't think, it just looks like she just walked out of there and was like, I won. You know, the way Donald Trump just walks out of things and be like, I won. It was difficult to watch indeed. Stay tuned. If you like the content, please subscribe and help us get to 1,000 subscribers. Bread and Captivity out.